with you tonight, and I want to talk to you a little bit about World Bible School. Those of you that are involved in this work, we appreciate so very much the opportunity to encourage you and thank you for what you have been doing. Thank you for the support that this congregation gives periodically to World Bible School as well, and we couldn't do it without you. We depend upon our brethren like you that are involved with us in the work and help support us financially, as well as those of you that grade the lessons. And this is a work that the brotherhood should be involved in because it takes all of us to evangelize. And when we think about the mission of World Bible School, that is exactly what Jesus instructed us to do, is to go and make disciples. And I noticed you have that very same thing on your flyer there in the front of the building. Appreciate that very much, because when we think about making disciples in every nation, I know those of you that have perhaps done some mission work in times past, you know that it is impossible practically for us to have enough people to evangelize the world if we all go on foot, right? There aren't enough of us to go around. So when we think about reaching the people of the world, as Jesus said, make disciples in every nation, if you're going to make disciples in every nation, how are we going to accomplish that as the Lord's people? We must have a presence in every nation, right? And therefore, World Bible School gives us that opportunity because we do have that presence. We have that availability to be in every nation of the world. And we're trying to make disciples in each one of those nations through brethren like you who are helping us teach and grade those lessons and so forth. And then those of you that are familiar with the World Bible School lessons, we address both aspects of the Great Commission. Jesus tells us first to go make disciples, and then he says to teach them the things that I've taught you, and speaking to his apostles. So when we think about those that become New Testament Christians, the last two lesson booklets that World Bible School has in our series address the latter end of that, continuing to teach what Jesus taught. But I will talk more about that in a moment. But we offer free Bible correspondence course to every nation of the world, either through the postal mail or electronically on their computer or electronic device of some sort. They can even take our lessons now on their cell phones. And this is something that we just introduced last year, toward the end of the year actually, a World Bible School Light Out. Now this is available only in foreign countries, but it is something, now you can download the WBS app on your phone here, but the Light app is available in foreign countries that give people that do not have full-time internet access the opportunity to download lessons onto their phone. They can also download portions or all of our World Bible School study Bibles onto their phone. It's going to take a lot of time to get all that downloaded. They do it in segments, but they can download those lessons one at a time. They can go home, and without the use of internet, they can fill out those questions, or they study that lesson, fill out those questions, and then they find a Wi-Fi hotspot to upload the lesson to their study helper, and therefore they can have and carry on those lessons on a daily basis. Now, this is something that has caused our student enrollment to explode. Once we released this last fall, our student numbers we have a student board on the internet that shows the availability of every student around the world that wants to study the World Bible School lessons. When we released this WBS Light app about a month later, we were averaging over 3,000. We got up almost to 4,000 people online that wanted to study. We had to cut back on our advertising because we had more students than we had teachers available to teach them. So we had to cut back on our advertising for that. So this is what the WBS Light Out was able to accomplish for us, and now it gives a great opportunity for people. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, perhaps people are going to have a cell phone. I took a trip last year to Malawi, Africa, the poorest nation in all the world. But those people still had cell phones. And they were utilizing this WBS Light app. They could download our lessons, go home, and fill out the lesson, go back to the Wi-Fi hotspot, and they can buy minutes at these internet stores, internet cafes, they call them. They can buy so many minutes, and they can upload their lessons, download the next one. So this is something that has really helped World Bible School. But this is what is really World Bible School is all about. You and I sharing the message of Jesus Christ with the lost and dying of this world. We realize as we try to fulfill that great commission, as I said, it takes all of us working together. So World Bible School provides the tools, you provide the manpower, and we can get the job done. But these are the tools that World Bible School offers. We have the printed lessons, which have been around since 1973, and those lessons are still available today, and we're reaching a lot of people that way. We have the online lessons that is the same material, only it's done electronically. We have a Connect program. Chuck, you folks use the Connect program here at your congregation? You don't know about that. Okay, we'll get you started there. But anyway, I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But we also have a Methodist program, which is a social media teaching tool that is available, and I'll tell you more about that as well. You are already perhaps familiar with our World Bible School study Bibles. This is the large print edition that I have in my hand here. We have the smaller version that's available as well. But we are currently developing, and I've already developed several booklets of a Bible curriculum that provides our brethren with the opportunity to have materials to study in their classes for the Bible studies at their own congregations. Now, this is the Master Series, the 7 lesson booklets that are a part of that, but you already are familiar with that perhaps. But the online lessons is something that I want to tell you about as well. It is the same material online, only broken down into smaller segments. So if you're studying online with an individual, you're going to just get portions of that lesson that you would get through the postal mail, but you grade those just the same, and everything operates similar to that. But in order to become a study helper, if you want to study or be a study helper online, or if you want to participate in the postal program, I encourage you to register with World Bible School, because we want to have a record of those teachers that we have out there in the world. We want to have a communication with them. So if you want to scan our barcode or go to the study helper application and fill out an application to register with World Bible School, it will take you to a page like this, and you are put through a screening process, of course, because we want to verify that you are a faithful member of the Lord's church before you're authorized to teach in the name of World Bible School. But if you register, then you're going to fill out that application and submit that. Usually within 24 hours, you'll receive an email verifying that you have been approved. And then you can go to worldbibleschool.org and log in with a PIN number that will be assigned to you. Now, once you put that PIN number in, it's going to take you to a website that will be your own personal page. This is my personal page here, but you can change your PIN number to any kind of password that you want to use for future use, but it's going to show you information about where you are as a teacher, how many students you have enrolled, or how many students that you have waiting for you to grade a lesson. Those blue pin drops that you see on the map represent each location where you have a student located. So you see I have several that are scattered around various parts of the world there. But it will show you your own personal map with the blue pin drop for every teacher, or every student rather, that you have. But up at the top of the page, you can click on a student board button. And once you open that up, it'll show you information like this, only there will be a lot more information than I'm able to have on the screen, because I had to blow this up for the sake of you being able to see it where you are. But it will show you the name of the individual. It will show you the gender. And ladies, if you want to teach just ladies, you can choose all females off that list. Or gentlemen, if you want to just teach all males, then you can choose by gender. You can also choose by location, because it's going to tell you where those students are located. It's going to show you the mode of study that they've chosen, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But over on the right-hand side, there are the action buttons. And we want each student that enrolls to take the lessons to receive at least 3 encouragement notes from 3 different study helpers. So you see the one in the middle there, they've already been encouraged 3 times, so that turns gray. As long as it's red, they need another encouragement from someone. So I can tell you, if you are a person that is a good Barnabas and you are a good encourager, write you a note to one of these students, and you can save that note, and then in the future, you can just click on it and send it to every student that you want to. Now, for our congregation in Decatur, Alabama, we have, I'm the coordinator for that congregation. I don't know why they chose me to do that. Maybe because I work for a Bible school. But I go on every morning for the students that we have on our adoption list and encourage each one. So we make sure that they are always encouraged. But the motive study, if there's a globe, that means that individual wants to do the online studies. If there's an envelope, that means that that person wants to study by postal mail. Now, you might think it's strange that they go online and register to study by postal mail, but they do. So you can even find students for your postal program on the internet also. But you simply decide the students that you want, and you click on the red adopt button, and you will be asked to introduce yourself to that student. So you just write them a little note, glad you have an interest in studying the Bible, and we look forward to receiving your first lesson or something of that nature, and send it to them. Then you wait on them to complete a lesson. Once they complete a lesson and they submit it, you will receive an email that you have a student that has a lesson that needed to be graded. Now, so you simply log on and do that. But there's the Connect program that we have that goes along with the online studies. And this, again, the students are always going to have the option, do the postal lesson or do the internet lesson. It's their choice. But if you do a Connect program, and this is something I want to encourage you, and this is what I mentioned a moment ago, you need to be utilizing this because it gives you an opportunity to target a specific area for evangelism. You can target your local area. For example, I have on the map there your congregation in the center. Now, we go out a 5-mile radius up to 100 miles. I think I've got that probably at 25 or 30 miles there. But you choose the size that you want designated for your target area. And you can do more than one area at the same time. Now, World Bible School sets this up for your congregation at no cost to you, and we will advertise for students at no cost to you. It doesn't cost you anything to use this. So you set up as many target areas as you want to, and any student within that target area that registers to become a study or a student for World Bible School, whether by postal mail or on the internet, every one of your registered teachers, now this is one of the reasons I said everyone needs to register, every registered teacher will receive an email telling you where that student is located that has signed up to study World Bible School lessons. You simply log on to the internet and adopt that student, and you begin studying with them. Now, the way this operates, I don't know how many congregations in your area might have your specific area targeted as well, but every congregation, whether there be 1 or 5 or 10 that are covering some of the same areas, every one of those teachers are going to get an email about this particular student. For example, in our hometown in Decatur, there are 3 congregations that have overlapping areas. One in Huntsville, come over in Decatur area, and the 2 congregations in Decatur have targets. All of the teachers in those 3 congregations receive the same email. Whoever logs on and adopts that student first is who gets to study with them. So that's the only fair way that we can do that. So for your case, there may not be anyone covering your local area. So you can find people that are willing to study on the internet that would not allow you into the privacy of their home to sit down and have a Bible study. But in the front of their computer, they will do that. Pardon me just a minute. I'm going to spray my throat with something and hopefully it'll get better. Now, if you want to set up more than one area, if you want to do your particular area where you're located, you can do that, but you can also set up an area where you may be helping support mission efforts. For example, our congregation in Decatur, we have the target over Decatur, but we also have one in Malawi, Africa, where we have a guy that works with us recruiting students and doing follow-up work for us. So we have 2 areas that we're covering, and you can have more than 2. You can have as many as you want, again, at no cost to the congregation, to be able to utilize that tool. Also, I mentioned that we have the Methodist program, which is our social media teaching tool. This is an effort that we wanted to develop to reach our younger generations, because we're losing far, far too many of our younger people from the Lord's church. So we did some research on the internet to find out what are people searching for answers about. Now, no longer in the younger generation do they go to mama, dad, or grandma and grandpa to find advice. They're going to look on the internet for their answers, right? That's the way our world operates today. So what were the most asked questions among those ages 30 and under? From those questions, we developed 30 videos that give a scriptural, biblical answer to those questions. Now, these are high-quality videos. They're all less than 10 minutes in length. Most of them average about 6 to 7 minutes. So it will hold the attention of even those that don't have a very long attention span. So they can find answers based on those questions and learn God's word in the process. Now, those 30 videos, you see just a few of the headings there, but you can download these for free through the App Store or through Google Play onto your phone or computer or whatever. You can watch them for free. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. But if you want to become a mentor or teacher for the Methodist program, we have these 3 lesson booklets that are developed, each one covering 10 videos each. Now, you can purchase those from World Bible School, and I think they're less than $20 to buy all 3 of the lesson booklets. But many congregations utilize this in teaching their youth groups and so forth. But people can use this in such a way, and I've been told don't compare it to Facebook, but I'm going to anyway, okay? Those of us of the older generation, we're familiar with how Facebook works, right? You have friends. You can invite your friends to download the video and watch that video, and you can set up a study group. All of you can get together on this chat group and talk about what you've seen or watched on the video. So you can utilize that in that way. But if you want to be a teacher for the Methodist program, you can scan our QR code or log on to methodist.org/teach, and you can register to become a mentor for World Bible School Methodist program. Now, this is something that is for electronics, and you can utilize that in any way you would like to do so. But we also have our World Bible School study Bibles, and I've already mentioned those, but we had a problem last year. A new guy came on board. These were printed in the English Standard Version. And a new guy that is over the copyright of the English Standard, they are from a denominational group that looked at our Bibles, and because we have in the back of our Bible segments such as this, it asks the question, why must a person be baptized? And this guy said, we do not believe that doctrine, and we're not going to allow you to print that Bible any longer. So we have a few more of the large print versions left, and once that remaining stock is sold out, we're no longer going to be able to have the English Standard. We're now printing the smaller Bible in the New King James at the present time. We do not have a large print edition of that, but you can order any of those Bibles from World Bible School. But we look at the idea of offering to our brethren not just an opportunity to evangelize, but also to grow spiritually within your own congregation. So we've developed the Bible curriculum that you see on the screen there. Some more are being written. John Reese, who was the president of World Bible School, is now semi-retired, but he's writing curriculum for us and developing some more Bible class study material. Now, all of those are written in 13 chapters, which fits perfectly into a quarterly study system, so you can choose those. And we sell those very, very cheap, a lot cheaper than you could buy most Bible materials for study as well. Now, if you think about World Bible School and what has happened within the years that it has been in existence, you've already heard just a moment ago about thousands or many people that have become New Testament Christians as a result of teachers. Well, we ask the question, is World Bible School really successful? I can tell you from personal experiences, I took my first mission trip in 1992. I was preaching at a local congregation, and I told my wife years before, I want to one day preach in Russia. That's what we called the entire Soviet Union at that time. I want to preach in Russia behind the Iron Curtain. She said, "You're crazy, they'll shoot you." But in 1992, I was able to go, and there was no Iron Curtain, okay? But when the Iron Curtain had fallen, I signed up to participate in a mission trip going to the former Soviet Union. Well, I was told about a man named Yuri Kazanogov. He lived in a city called Ravinki in Ukraine, almost at the Russian border. So when I signed up to go on this trip, we were having a meeting on a Saturday of some people that were going in various places and getting a little bit of hands-on training from those that had gone there prior to my trip. And I was told about Yuri, that was an English teacher in the high school in Ukraine. Now, he taught British English. He didn't teach Alabama English like I speak. But this man had taken a World Bible School correspondence course that had been offered after the Iron Curtain had fallen. And he had completed the course and requested to be baptized into Christ. This man had been waiting for over a year, and no one had gone there. And I was told that story, and had been reading about some of these campaigns where they were baptizing 200, 250 people, and I wanted to be a part of that. But when I heard his story, I said, yes, I'll go. So it took me a long time to get to Yuri, but when I got there, I was able to baptize Yuri and 7 other people and planted the church where there was no Church of Christ located. He became the preacher for that congregation. Also on that trip, I had a man named Dima Kolimets who was a university student at the University of Kyiv. He was my interpreter, and he had accompanied me on that 18-hour train ride both ways and a 3-hour bus ride, and had spent several weeks with me and heard me preach 2 times a day. But he hadn't obeyed the gospel. But on the train ride back to Kyiv, when I was going to catch my plane to come home, he said, when we get back to Kyiv, I want you to baptize me. Well, thank you, Lord. So I baptized Dima in a lady's bathtub on my way back home. He too became a gospel preacher, and I had returned to Ukraine several times, working with Dima each trip, and together we planted 3 churches of our Lord, and 2 preachers came out of that. And that was one of the congregations that we planted is now being used by 21st Century Global Missions as a preacher training school, which had to stop after Russia invaded, but they're no longer doing that. But all of that from one World Bible School student. Is World Bible School successful? I can tell you about a trip I made this past year to Malawi, Africa. I mentioned that our congregation at Decatur has a man in Malawi that works with us. Our eldership works with his elders, and they have very good communication together. But I went to the city of Blantyre, where he is located down in southern Malawi, and also did some work in Zumba that had not been planned before my trip. But I went to work with the Tambala congregation. These are the elderships that work with our congregation and very closely, and we've had to replace their roof a couple times due to typhoons that have come through and blown their tin roof off their building. But this is what the inside of their church building looked like. You notice the men on one side and women on the other. But they normally have about 120 or 30 on a Sunday morning. They had 293 there the day that I was there. But we also had a World Bible School seminar. I rented a facility in downtown Blantyre, invited all of our World Bible School students to come on a Saturday for an all-day study session. And one of my students, about 2 weeks before my trip, Victor there, had completed the online lessons with me, and he requested to be baptized. Well, I contacted our guy in Malawi, and he wasn't going to be able to get to him before I came, and I told him, you just come to the seminar, told him where it was located, and we will take care of that. So he was baptized at the end of the seminar on that day. But also one of my online students, Juap William, he had registered last March, and I studied with him for several months. He had completed the course, but he had not been baptized. But he came to the seminar, he and his wife. Juap was a Pentecostal preacher. And Juap came to the seminar, and he studied with us all day. And I'll show you how this guy makes a living. He and his family raise peanuts, and he has a little grinder, and he makes peanut butter and sells it in the marketplace there. But you see, Juop William Investment, that's his investment, peanut butter. But Juop came up to me after the seminar was finished, and he said, I have thoroughly enjoyed what you've taught from the Bible today, and I want you to come preach at my congregation. And I said, man, I would love to do that. To be able to go preach at a Pentecostal congregation was something that I was thrilled to do. So we set up a time when I could come, and he said, I'll give you 2 hours. Well, I went to teach at the Pentecostal congregation, and that's my interpreter there. They speak English, but they wanted an interpreter because they can understand their own language better than they could understand me. So we used an interpreter, but anyway, there were more people on the other side of the building you couldn't see. That's just the ladies' side there. But I spent 2 hours there, and Juop stood up and he said, this is too good to stop. You just go as long as you want to. We'll be here listening. So he just opened the door for this preacher to preach for 3.5 hours. And at the end of the 3.5 hours, I offered the opportunity for anyone to obey the gospel. Again, Juop stood up once more, and he said, I'm going to be the first one. So Juop and his wife and all of these people, 12 in number, obeyed the gospel that day from the Pentecostal church. I was thrilled to death because I'd never experienced anything like that. So I was thanking the Lord, but we were returned back to the villages on the southern part of Blantyre, up in the mountainous region. And it required a 4-wheel drive vehicle to get up there. And as we would drive up those little washed out roads, we would go through some villages, and children would be out on the side of the road playing, and they would look and see me riding by in the car. Well, the car was unusual for them to see, but here was a white guy riding up the road, and they would start shouting Azim Goo, and they would go up through the village shouting Azim Goo. That means white people. So they were telling everyone there's a white guy coming through, and they would all come out to watch us drive by. But we had these Bible studies in the villages, and so productive because the first village we had 6 baptisms, and then we had 12 baptisms. Then we had 19 baptisms. By this point, I was overwhelmed. I was thinking, Lord, I've been on a lot of mission trips. I've never, ever seen people as receptive as these are. And I was just rejoicing. I called my wife, and we wept a while, thanked the Lord. Guess what? The next day we had 27 baptisms at one village. And then we had 7 baptisms at a village that was primarily Catholic. They had a Catholic orphanage there, but we baptized 7 people in that village as well. Then Juop told me something after he was baptized that I did not know. He said, there's something that you do not know about me. I'm not only a Pentecostal preacher, or was a Pentecostal preacher, but I'm also a bishop in the Pentecostal church, and I oversee 16 congregations. And I want you to come teach every one of those people what you've taught me. And I said, brother, that sounds thrilling, but I can't. I don't have time. So he kept on insisting. There was a congregation about 1.5 hours away in Kambinji. You see what a beautiful area it is. And he convinced me to go there the following Sunday. I was supposed to preach again at the Church of Christ, but I talked to those elders and the preacher, and they said, if you can go preach at the Pentecostals, you go with our blessings. So I did. While we were at Kambinji, this is inside of the church building. You can see it's very exotic, but these people were very humble and poor. But we baptized 3 of those people in that Pentecostal church. Well, Juop was telling me that I was going to have to stay longer, which I could not do. But while I was there, I was working with this man. This is the guy that our eldership has hired to do student recruiting for us and follow up work that I've already mentioned. But prior to my trip, through our World Bible School program alone, in 3 years, we had 85 baptisms. Alex Gonzalou was recruiting those students, sending them by email the lessons to me. We were grading them in Decatur and emailing them back to him. And as follow-up work, we'd already had 85 baptisms. But while I was there on my mission trip, we had 80 total baptisms. So I was thrilled that God allowed me to be a part of such a great mission effort. This was like reliving the book of Acts almost. We had 80 people that came to Christ. But then Jewhaupt, as I said, was a bishop in the Pentecostal church. And I told Jewhaupt, you're going to have to teach what I've taught you. And he said, I can't remember it all. So I ran copies of every one of our studies. I ran copies of all of our World Bible School lessons, or gave him lesson booklets, actually. But I ran copies of all the things that I'd preached and taught about the church and the one true church and so forth. And I said, you're going to have to teach them. You use this material. He said, okay, I'm going to have a meeting next Saturday. I was going home like on Monday or Tuesday. He said, I'm going to have a meeting Saturday with all 16 congregations. At the end of that Saturday, he sent me this email. I taught what you taught me from the Bible. All 16 branches have agreed and been converted. All are changing their names to Church of Christ and following New Testament church. We all agreed to follow the truth. No, this is the most important part, not because we want to please you, but God who sent you to us. I knew when I read that, this man is on the right track. And also sat in front of my computer and wept for a while, because I was so thrilled that God allowed me to be a part of something that was turning out to be so great. And that was all because of World Bible School. You see, I had been planning on going to Malawi to work with Alex Gunsaloo for over 2 years. COVID came along, I couldn't go. 2021, I was going to go again. COVID sprang up over there once more. I couldn't go. If I had gone either of those years, I never would have met Jewhaupt William. You see, Jewhaupt signed up to become my online student last March. Through God's providence and through God's timing, he had Steve Gober in Malawi when he needed me. And this was what happened. 16 congregations of Pentecostals converted to Christ. Now, that's Martin Smadu there in the red jacket, the red suit. He is the preacher for the Tambala congregation. But he and Alex and Jewhaupt have been visiting all 16 of those former Pentecostal churches, enrolling them in World Bible School lessons. They're sending those to our congregation in Decatur, and our people are grading them. We're trying to ground them and mature them in Christ because they're newborn babes in Christ. They did not own a Bible. They did not have a copy of God's Word. So we also have been giving them Bibles, which I had sent prior to my trip. These are World Bible School Bibles that we sent over, and they're distributing those among the people. Now, they have Bibles that are available, but they don't have money to buy them. So we gave them World Bible School Bibles, but not long afterwards, Jewhaupt started sending me emails, and he said, these people can read the Bible in English, but they want the Bible in their own language, which is Chichewa. We need Chichewa Bibles. Now, I found out while I was there that Chichewa Bibles were available from the Bible Society in downtown Blantyre for $12 each. So I had not inquired from Jewhaupt how many people were involved in those 16 congregations that were converted to the Lord. I was leaving that count up to God because I didn't want to take credit for it. That was God's work, not my work. But I went back to my eldership and I said, I know we spent a lot of money sending World Bible School Bibles to Malawi, but they're begging for the Bible in their own language. They said, well, how many Bibles are we talking about? So I had to go back and ask Jewhaupt how many, not Bibles, how many souls we were talking about, because that's what that represented. And he sent me this number. 389 former Pentecostals were now members of the body of Christ because of one World Bible School student, Jewhaupt William. This is a great work that God did. And God used me as a part of that, and I'm so humbled and grateful that he did. But we did sent money for them to purchase Bibles, and those people now have Bibles in their own language. But Jewhaupt and Alex are still working together and baptizing other people. There have been over 550 conversions since I made that trip last July and August. because of one World Bible School student. Is it effective? You tell me. I think God has used this work to accomplish great things, particularly in Malawi, Africa. And you can be a part of that. But we set a goal at World Bible School last year to reach 10 million for Christ by the end of 2023. That is quite a lofty goal for World Bible School, but that doesn't even touch the hem of the garment of the billions of people that are living in our world. So we might ask, how are we going to reach 10 million for Christ? We do it together. Brethren like you assisting and working with us to accomplish that feat. Because this is the number we had already reached at the end of January this year. We're already past halfway. Now that doesn't mean that all those 10 million are going to obey the gospel. That means they're going to have an opportunity to obey the gospel, okay? So we are presenting them an opportunity through the lessons or through giving them a Bible or something that is going to show them the way of salvation. So by the end of this year, I know we're going to far exceed that number because brethren like you are going to help us make that possible. And with God's help, we can accomplish that goal. So I encourage you this afternoon, get involved. When you think about what you could do to evangelize the world, get involved with World Bible School. You can pray. You can also teach. And if the Lord has blessed you, you can give. I don't want to take away anything that you normally give the congregation here, but I do have some material in the foyer and some cards out there that if the Lord has blessed you and you want to help this ministry, pick up one of those cards and specifically fill out the part of sowing the seed and become a monthly donor for World Bible School. You can do that through charging it to a credit card or having a bank draft or make out a check each month, send it to World Bible School. But please consider helping this ministry accomplish what we have been given the task to do. Go and make disciples in all the world, because this is what World Bible School is all about, you and I together sharing the message of Jesus with the lost and dying of this world. Now, I've shown that I had 4 minutes just about a minute ago, so I've left you 3 minutes to ask questions. So anyone have a question for me?
Can you give directly online?
Pardon me?
Can you give directly online?
Yes, sir, you sure can. I like that question.
Can we pick people that we want to send lessons to?
Yes, sir.
We have your email address and we just want to send them to
We have a lady at the office that collects all of our students who register that want to do the postal lessons. You can call her and talk to her, tell her what country you are interested in evangelizing, and she will send you students from that country only. If you want just students in general, she can send them from all over the world. Someone will add there.
The slide you showed about Connect, where you had the circle around this area, what happens if there are students in there that aren't contacted? Do they fall into another category somewhere? So they don't just sit there?
I'm hard of hearing, so let me get closer.
The Connect slide?
Yes.
And you say that around this area, 20, 30 miles, we get a group of names available. If they're not selected by a World Bible School teacher after a period of time, what happens to their name?
They pass over to the general student board that I showed you, where anyone can adopt them then. And so they remain on your target for, I think, 7 days. If no one's adopted them within that length of time, then they move them over to the general board, because we want to make sure that they have someone that will study with them. Good question, though. Any other question? Yes, sir.
Just one, so I noticed, we have a pretty good listing that comes in. There's a lot of African listings that I can just pick whichever person I want to teach. But I haven't really seen that much in Indonesian. There's a group that we're trying to reach in Indonesia and trying to really push it in Indonesia, my wife and I. So is there a marketing going on in Indonesia? Because it's a really big Muslim country, and we're really trying to influence more before we get over there later this year.
Well, if you wanted to set up a target area in Indonesia or any country, you can do that and specialize on trying to reach those people. Now, the students, we have our World Bible School lessons are offered in several different languages. The student has the option of choosing the language they want to study in. So if you are an individual like myself that you only speak English, you tell World Bible School when you register what language you can speak, and they will only send you language or lessons in your language. Now, if there are people in the congregation that can speak foreign languages, tell World Bible School when you register, and they will send you those students as well. So if you can speak Indonesian, whatever language they speak, I'm not sure. But anyway, you can pick up students that way as in addition to English speaking. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Have you found that the material itself, while obviously the biblical message does not change,
Right.
has it been rewritten for, the electronic world and the more recent culture?
We are in the process of reworking and rewording some of our lessons. In fact, lesson book number 3, if you're familiar with it, it talks about the flying arrows upward and downward and all that, which is confusing to some people. We're eliminating all of that. So we are rewriting our material a little bit and changing up some things to make it more modern. Yes.
A gradual thing or a large effort?
Well, we're not going to do anything drastic because we've got all these grading keys out there that people go by, and we don't want to change that and make them have to get a different one or whatever. So we're trying to keep everything where we can keep those answer sheets. It's multiple choice, and we want to make sure all those circles remain the same. Anything else? I'm thinking we're probably over my time already, so I will sit down.